Hello, you guys. Welcome to the second installment of our review of Happier Than Ever, the new album released by Billie Eilish. Let me introduce myself. My name is Renaissance Marie Austin, certified in commercial music. My degree is in fine arts, applied music, and vocal performance, as well as music production through Avid Learning Schools. Today, I am going to be talking about male fantasy. Oh my gosh. This is the other song in which I had to pull out separately on its own. I feel like I am on a diagonal. Let me see. Wait, let's see if it'll regulate, if it'll fix itself. Okay. So, male fantasy. Guys, voids and vices. I wrote a whole church sermon, yeah. When I tell you Billie Eilish, blush, she is a little lady of my heart. Like, I literally feel like we are spirit twins. What she's going through, just the journey of life, right? Relationships, emotions, thinking about your experiences, finding revelation in them, journaling. But let's get into it. A lot of these things, I know them to be true. Raise your hand if you know. If you know, you just know. I'm raising my hand. Boy, can I relate to this song. The effort to fill up emptiness. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's start our sermon. The guitar has the same feel as your power. I feel like that is very intentional because Your Power is a song that has a very strong message. So does this song. And here's the thing. Male fantasy is not just about that one statement in that one line. The whole song is a male fantasy. The symbolic representation of the male fantasy is being related to life itself. The first thing that stood out to me was trying not to eat. I was an emotional overeater. Guys, this trying not to eat, that right there is vice number one. That is a statement in itself. I might get emotional in this video. Where's my tissue? If you have never been an emotional overeater, there's like a point where you don't realize that you are, then for me, there was like this point where I caught that I was emotional overeater. I was driving somewhere. I was having a cool day. But then I had got a phone call about something that just totally plummeted my feelings. But something just clicked. I don't know. Life is like that. It was like, wait a minute. You're literally going to go get ice cream because of a phone call that you just received that just made you feel a certain way. So now because of that feeling, you need a vice. You need something that will make you feel good. But let me tell you what's crazy though. That food might be comforting in the moment. When you're so full and you don't feel good afterwards, it's not a good feeling. It's a male fantasy because it doesn't really fully satisfy. But you gain a lot of weight, you end up feeling bad, you end up laid out on your bed or your couch and you can't move, you're so full. It's not a good feeling. Vice number one. Trying to fill up the feeling of dissatisfaction and unfulfillment with food. So because I'm trying not to do that, let me go to my next thing. Distract myself with pornography. So in order for me to not stuff my face, I need to turn to another vice. This is vice number 2. There is a search for satisfaction. And then I sense in this span of time, from trying not to eat to going to look at pornography, that this character is feeling antsy. They're feeling not pleased. They're feeling dissatisfied and frustrated about a lot of things. Even still, the second vice does not satisfy. Reason being, I can't stand the way she looks at me. I can't stand the dialogue. She would never be that satisfied. It's a male fantasy. Ooh, when I tell y'all I got a sermon for this, I got a sermon. To me, it's a male fantasy. I wrote this. Is the most powerful lyric on this album. The statements, okay, let me see what I put. These statements are not just about the film alone, that she's watching, but points out the fact that the script, the way it's directed, and the outcome is all from the male's point of view. And ultimately, the satisfaction is his only. When the lyrics say, I can't stand, this is a clear indication of annoyance. Like when you're like, oh, I can't stand it. You find more annoyance than excitement in what you're looking at. At the end of the day, vice number 2 does not even fulfill. I think I wrote, okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm going back to therapy. Listen, I'm trying not to eat. I'm checking out a little bit of pornography. That ain't helping. Just the way that I'm feeling, okay, fine. I'm going back to talk it out. Like in school, we had free therapy sessions that we could set up in our health center, in which I did. It is amazing. So, like, you be having these light bulb moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I just realized that. Like, I said it, but I just realized that, like, myself. I highly recommend that. There is so much in the first verse alone. So, guys, let me break down these references in context. We're not even to the second verse yet. Male fantasy is a symbolic representation of very specific feelings of dissatisfaction, unfulfilled love, and pleasure. The whole song implies a male fantasy because no matter what the character does, they're left empty, unfulfilled, and dissatisfied. It's a male fantasy. What is a male fantasy? I'm going to explain. Guys, here's my nerdiness coming out. Okay. Examples. The 1850s, right? In and around that time. Women's suffrage. Let me tell you, because one of my favorite authors is Mary Austin. I have her autobiography, which is amazing. In that autobiography, this is how I learned the social and communal aesthetic of the time. Let me tell you what they used to do if you don't already know. Men used to go to work. At the time, and this is even before women were allowed to even have a job. By the time they were allowed to have their first job was as a teacher. Okay? Men would leave work. Guess where they go? Not home. To the tavern and get drunk. When it was done at the tavern, that's when they came home, laid on top of their wife, and conceived another baby. Imagine only being at home, conceiving your 8th baby, and just cooking, taking care of all these baby kids, running around the house with your husband always drunk, laying on top of you. These women probably ain't never had an orgasm. And this is what a lot of women went through all throughout history. It's just being looked at as at home, bearing some kids, tending to the kitchen, tending to the home. You might ask, what does this have to do with the song? I'm going to bring it back. Because it's the concept. The male fantasy is the man's point of view, the man's way, the man's pleasure, right? It's so much to the point that it's like, do you even realize or consider the feelings of someone else, or consider the pleasures of someone else, or consider the satisfaction of someone else, consider the fulfillment of someone else? Oftentimes, we as people, we're supposed to have that exchange, but we don't. So most of our lives, especially for women, is lived as a male fantasy. Get to, let me see if this matches up. Boy, don't I know about that. At the end of the day, it comes back to that one person that you love. This love is so unfulfilled because the person is not there. You try to do everything else to fulfill that love. Nothing else works. Because I wrote a lot about this song. I was trying to make sure if I needed to say everything, but I don't know. This might be able to help someone. You know, sometimes we write all this stuff and then we get a little self-conscious and be like, well, I don't know if I need to say all that. But this may need to help someone. I feel like there's a lot that younger people don't know about love and the concept of male fantasy, just a concept of a lot of things. So let me go on. If I'm getting over you. I love the way that she phrases everything, because she knows how to use the right words to pinpoint, to match with the exact emotion. She said, if I'm getting over you, or just pretending to, and then convincing yourself that I hate you. Because if I do that, then it's like faking it until you make it. If I convince myself that I hate you, I still feel ugly inside. I'm sorry, I've been there. If you love someone, you're just lying to yourself. You are in denial, and you are lying to yourself by trying to convince yourself that you hate the person that you love. And the thing is, like, when a lot of people are around, look, when a backyard barbecue is happening, it's easy to not think about that person. When family is around and you guys are laughing and you're having dinner or you're watching TV, it's easy not to think about that person. But when you get by yourself, it all comes rushing in again. That's what that whole section talks about. So, second verse. But it wasn't so. Trying to rekindle old experiences that are connected to amazing memories. Didn't work. That's another vice. Because when you have memories of an old friendship and it was satisfying, you want that again. You realize the person has changed, you have changed. But what I believe is, like, people are gonna change. I just feel like you can still change, but you can also create new memories that can be great and satisfying. But oftentimes that just doesn't happen. Like, people's ideologies change. Their philosophies, their perceptions change. They look at you differently. They look at themselves differently. They look at the world differently. and they change. And when you try to reconnect, it just doesn't make the connection. This is a figurative male fantasy.
I worry this is how I'm always gonna feel.
Powerful lines. She said, and it's all I think about when I'm behind the wheel. Y'all, first of all, I'm a driver too. I get that from my dad. My dad was a driver. We would go on little drives after church. My dad was also an organist and a musician as well. So that's why, and I'll probably mention this in other videos, like the organ is my weakness. I freaking love the organ. We grew up with an organ in my house. Driving and being in your car, especially on an open road on a beautiful day with some fluffy clouds, is one of the best places to be, to think and to reflect. Like, I know this all too well, and it's all I think. Oh my God. It's beautifully hurtful, and just thinking like, am I always gonna, is this all, is life always gonna be like this satisfying and unfulfilled? I mean, there's gonna be things that satisfy, right? Why do we watch certain movies over and over and over again and they become our favorite? Because they satisfy. Satisfaction makes you want it more and more and more and more. That's one of the reasons why sometimes we don't deviate from what we know satisfies. Can the church say amen? Okay. Yes. Okay. So we talk about male fantasy and how it really represents dissatisfaction, unfulfillment, a one-sided view. It doesn't really consider the other person or other parties that are in the same experience. So I put the opposite of the male fantasy concept is selflessness, strong awareness of people and things outside of you and your own vision or headspace. I believe that this song can inspire change, and I hope that people are humble enough to like look in the mirror and be like, you know what? Do I bring fulfillment or dissatisfaction to someone's life? Because we need each other. We need that human connection that brings the satisfaction and fulfillment of life. And so if you don't know, if you don't already know, I'm going to let you know. Humans were made to share true love, authentic intimacy, compassion, to serve and please each other, to help each other. I could go on. We don't do that. We hurt each other. When it comes to intimacy, men enjoy themselves while women are faking orgasms, because so many do. Kudos to those who got it right, okay? If you know what you're doing with your tool, kudos. I'm trying to keep it clean for the kids. Always for the kids. Majority of the time, the women are left feeling worthless and used, or just not fully seen sexually. It's like you're just laying on top of a person that is just there for your own pleasure. This is another thing that I thought about when it comes to pornography. Parents conceive their children and then are shy about teaching their children about how they were conceived. Parents are not taking the wheel and providing sex education for their kids, because we know, I mean, data shows, the child development science or whatever shows that there are various stages of when children become curious about sex and sexuality. Toddlers, I know you parents say I don't have no kids, okay? But I know you parents don't want to believe this, but it's true. You guys got to stop. You have to be the sex educator for your children. You have to. I'm going to tell you why. Okay. Then at a certain age, especially for young boys, this is how I saw the male fantasy continuing. Like we need to change the trajectory of the male fantasy, because what happens is young boys, so when they're ready to learn, I feel like most people, especially the young boys, get their sex education from pornography, and they go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. Because it technically is like, who is teaching them what to do, right? Who's teaching them what to do? So then when they become, so what it is they're taking on their perspective. It's just like how Billie said in the beginning in the first verse. They're taking on the perspective of what they see, and what they see is the male fantasy, because the way that the film is scripted, the way it's directed, the way it's all put together, and then the outcome, the focus is on the male's pleasure, really. So the cycle ends up continuing to where young guys are not learning real intimacy and what a woman really wants. This is pretty horrific in my opinion. And it's sad because it creates a disconnect, which in turn creates emptiness, which leads to voids, which leads to vices. We are back at the beginning again. Whew. I have a personal story that I wanted to share. I was trying to decide if I wanted to share it. It does make me cry, but I'll try to breathe through it. Because I was really battling. I was like, okay. But I think this personal experience may be able to help someone. Let me see. So this is a story about a friend. Of course, I won't name his name. I'm going to tell you now. My friend, he is no longer living. He is dead. Okay? He died at 31. I met him when I was 12. What else? And I'm going to tell you that I'm gonna get through this. I got some ice. Let's see if some ice can help me. Okay. My experience with him was not a male fantasy. I am hoping that by me telling this story, that people will find inspiration in this experience, and that they will maybe take some of this, put it into practice, and love each other more in a very pure and authentic way. I started off dancing at like 10, doing military drill. And then a couple of years later, I met him. He was in our dance troupe. He was a choreographer. He would enter like the solo male categories and win all of the trophies for us. He was my dance partner. He was my friend. He was my lover. And I will explain what that means, because like we were both teenagers, but I wasn't like, I will explain what that means. Okay. So when I got the phone call, that he passed away, I did a lot of reflecting after his funeral. And, in hindsight, you realize he was perfect in every way. Okay. I want to sort of break down what our weekly quality time was like. we would have rehearsals. Then we would come back to my house. On this particular night, which I think was like a Wednesday night, my dad, who played organ in the church for free also, there might have been like Bible study or like choir rehearsal or something like that. So he would go off to church, and then it would be me, my twin brother, and my friend. My twin was just always off, like in his room somewhere, like just doing whatever. But my friend and I, literally, we had the best of times. I would say there was not a time where I ever saw him angry. We would laugh and joke. He would make fun of me, and we would laugh and joke. We watched music videos on the TV. We'd be doing toe touches in my living room. We'd be choreographing stuff for like duet routines and all kind of stuff and this and that. We'd do that for a cool amount of time. And then after that, we'd plop down on the couch. I would literally like curl up in his lap, and he would literally rock me like a baby, give me kisses on my cheeks and on my forehead, just so endearing. And we would talk about our future. We would talk about dreams, like what we wanted in life, what we wanted for him. I mean, our dance mates and even our coach, we all dreamed that he would become this huge choreographer, like in the entertainment industry. And this was during the time where dancers were really reigning in the entertainment industry, like in film and in music videos and all these movies, dance movies. Yeah. And then after all of that, we usually like would make out, and like we go to my room, we make out. He never wanted to have intercourse with me. I will say why later, but also I was too young for that. And like when you're in the middle of experiencing that, you don't really realize like what is going on. Again, like I said, in hindsight, like after his funeral, I thought about everything, and he, at the end of the day, was the most loving person I have ever met in my life. And as long as I have been living, I can honestly say I've never met anyone else like him. Him and my dad. Amazing. I'm gonna say that I had an amazing experience with him that was not intercourse. You know I'm not giving no details, but I'm just gonna say on one night, when it happened, and I was outside of myself. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna make it I'm just gonna tell you, it was not a male fantasy. I was very happy and very satisfied and in tears, and I realized something. I actually made a list of all of the things that I thought about that possibly made the experience what it was. He was my first very relational and intimate experience. He was my first experience with just something so satisfying and amazing that I expected that I would have experiences like that with other people, like whether in marriage or in my adult relationships. That did not happen. Life became a male fantasy and so many aspects of it. I put this, my friend's character, He was deeply loving. He was caring. He was comforting, protective. I felt safe with him. Never saw him angry, like I said. We laughed and joked a lot. He loved affection and kissing, even if it led to nothing. I had hickeys on my neck. Listen, my dad was so sensitive. He was such a sensitive man. He just looked so heartbroken. I was trying to hide my little hickeys. And then he told my auntie. Then my auntie called me yelling and screaming on the phone, talking about, is you having sex? Are you using condoms? No, I was not. Okay? There was no pretense with him. He was his authentic self. No motive, no agenda, pure-hearted, easily trusted. I have trust issues today, okay? Leave me alone. And here's the thing, and this is how I related to, hopefully, even on this song is not necessarily just about the sexual satisfaction alone, but I would say that I hope that maybe perhaps people can like take this into consideration to even have better like sexual satisfaction in their partnerships. So he was rare, but at least I know that he existed. What I realized, and this is so funny because I did mention oxytocin in this statement. When I think about the experience in itself, he wanted to please me. He wanted to satisfy me. His focus was not just on him. He wanted to be affectionate with me. And what I also realized, maybe for some of y'all that don't know, it didn't happen the first time. It was a building up and it just happened. And then we were friends too. And I find it interesting when people be like, oh, I've never had a female for a friend. I'm really going off. I'm going off, you guys. I feel like it all relates. I was really trying to decide if I was, but I'm already talking about it. I was trying to decide if I needed to say all of this, but I feel like it's so necessary. This is all of the thoughts that this song brings out to me. And it's like, I hear guys go, I've never been friends like with the girl or a female. I never had female friends. That's one of the problems of male fantasy. I can only go off my experience. This guy was my friend. He didn't only want to just be like, yeah, let's go bone. No, because that wasn't the focus. Like, that's side B. That's literally side B. My issue is that if you grow up and you're taught in your household that women are not friends, then if they're not friends, what are they? Think about that. What are they actually? That means that you only see a woman the way you see her in the pornographic film. Just as someone who is either just going to be a wife, just do your laundry, just cook, or just someone that is just domesticated. Again, that's a male fantasy mindset. It's a male fantasy mindset. Really, really think about it. If you're a guy and you don't see how a woman can like be your friend or your best friend, that you only see her a certain way in the capacity of just like a woman companion. There is a disconnect, because friendship is what makes the connection. I mentioned oxytocin. Why? What happened? And we will talk about oxytocin later in another video. But what's happening with me and my friend before we even get to making out? There's something so beautiful about the times that we laugh and joke, oxytocin. There's platonic intimacy there, oxytocin. Dancing together, touching, doing turns, toe touches, whatever. Slow dancing, just having a good time, oxytocin. Curling up in his lap, feeling like I am being heard and I am being paid attention to when I talk about the things I want in my future and in my life. And when we talk about those things, feeling like, oh my gosh, he understands me, I understand him, oxytocin. It's the love chemical, right? It's the feeling of love in every aspect. And it felt like all of those things were the prelude to the making out, or the prelude to the experience, or foreplay. I guess, I like using sort of a more modern word, prelude or whatever. All of those things leading up to each and every time. So that over time, with him being my friend, the trust was there. You guys don't do that. The first thing guys do is sniff out a woman. Sniff, sniff. That happened to me at the grocery store. I just happened to put in some new extensions in my hair. Got all dolled up, went to the grocery store. I mean, the guy literally jumped out the produce section. Lemons flying everywhere. I'm just trying to look at the walnut milk in the cereal aisle. And he literally was like a sniff, sniff. Literally. I am not an animal to be sniffed. He saw me and immediately came out of nowhere and was just like, wow, you're attractive. What? Can I have your number? He went on to even mention, because I said a few things. I always have at least like max a 10-minute conversation with these dudes before anything, because I let them know my position. He said, well, if I can't be your lover, I could be your friend. That's the first thing you're thinking about. The only visual you got is me in the bed. That's the only vision you got, is me in the bed. And then had the nerves to say, ooh, I might give you some kids. After you just talked about the kids you already have, probably with 2 or 3 other baby mamas. Do you see what Lord, I don't even know if I'm gonna keep this all in a video. I might just and I'll let y'all could decide. Skip what you want to skip. But all of this is necessary to talk about, because it brings up all of these feelings and emotion from the whole concept of people acting in a male fantasy. It's not just the film alone. So when she gets to the end part, she finally finds her truth. I can't get over you no matter what I do. Where are we even in the song? It's beautiful. At the end of the day, in our final last phrases, I should, but I can never hate you. There's actually much more healing in not being in denial and finding your truth and saying, you know what, I'm not over you. I can't get over you. I should hate you, but I just don't. I love you. I love you. I just do. What else did I put here? Yeah, the line I love the most is no matter what I do. It goes back to our vices, the vices that are trying to fill the voids. No matter what I do, no amount of food, whether eaten or avoided, no pornography, no rekindling of old friendships will suffice. They will not satisfy. They will not fulfill. Overall, it does not matter what your vice is. Everyone who loves only want that love to be satisfied and fulfilled. It's what every human wants. Ultimately, it's very simple, right? It's very simple. The song is, and straight to the point. But I think that there's so much to pull out as to the why. Why do we have to feel this way in life? So leave your comments below. I would love to hear other thoughts about this song, what you were able to pull out of it, how you relate to it. Yeah. So God bless, and I will see you in the next video.